Hello, it's Metal Monday, and instead of drawing out a long post on Instagram, I figured I'd just do a short video to talk about my experience while it's still fresh. I think it's a little over 24 hours since I got back to Dallas, and really had a chance to think over everything that went on during the marathon, how I felt, how I'm feeling now. Um, Great news. This is probably one of the marathon training cycles where I've been able to come out of a race without any major pains or aches. It's just what you expect after a marathon: soreness, but no strains, which typically in the past I would have issues either with strained adductors, calves, or even IT band issues. But in this training cycle, I've done a better job about functional strength training and recovery. So going into this marathon, uh, I didn't really have a set goal of a time to finish this marathon in, but it was more so about testing out everything that I have been doing differently in this training cycle. And I when I look at this course, I saw that given the ups and downs, the technical, the climbs, the descents, I think this would be a great test to really see where I'm at and gauge myself as far as whether what I'm doing is working or not working. And based on how I'm feeling today, I can say that it is working, and if anything, I'll continue doing what I'm doing and ramp up even more so. Um, but quick recap on the marathon. Game plan going in was just about going off the feel. I didn't really chart out, hey, I'm gonna go run at X pace for X amount of miles and then drop or pick it up or slow down. For me, this marathon was all about running on feel, making sure my breathing was controlled, making sure that I was present in the mile that I was in, making sure that I was fueling properly, and really ensuring that I was using good form and making sure that my legs were firing properly and I wasn't just forcing my body. The first 5 miles were at a descent. Did go off a little bit faster than I wanted to, but I was able to control and keep an eye on my breathing. I made sure that my breathing was working, everything was fine. I wasn't spiking my heart rate. That was a big indicator for me to use during the race. I knew that it was going to get tough whenever the first stage of climbing would come at mile 7, and when it did, I was ready. I had a strategy on how I was going to do those climbs. For me, the focus was just to increase my cadence and steps, which worked out perfectly. Not focusing too much on what others were doing around me. I did notice that some people would power through the hills, but then I would catch them on the descents, and it would be like a back and forth. But eventually, where I would catch up is on the descents, and then be able to hold pace on the flat. So, if anything, for me, my strengths for this race were on running the flats, holding pace, and making sure that my heart rate stayed where I wanted it to be. For this course, I'd say it's probably one of those courses where the aid stations, I can't remember a race where the aid stations were as well prepared as these were. I mean, almost every station had electrolytes, water ready, the volunteers were ready. Not even just that, but they would have gels, different varieties of gels, Martin, SIS, by far probably one of the best races, well catered races that I've done, even compared to Ironman races that I've done in the past. I try not to bank too much on the on-course nutrition. I always make sure that I bring enough for myself for the stuff that I like to use. For this race, I chose to use a combination of Fuma double electrolytes and a new one that I was recently recommended to me, which is Carbs Nutrition, just because of the higher carb content, which ended up working out perfectly with the pairings. I would do one Huma, one carb, and then water and electrolytes from what was provided on course. Everything went well as expected. I was expecting it to hurt. I knew it was going to be a challenge because of how technical it was. For me, it was more so how was I going to deal when it started to hurt. How was I going to go about it? And did I manage myself? Did I prepare myself? Did I fuel well prior to it to getting to that stage? I didn't really start having major issues till about mile 23. But by then it was more so fatigue on the muscles, and it's an interesting feeling because this is probably one of those races where I had the urge to want to pick up the pace, but every time I would try to pick up the pace, cramping would try to creep up on those muscles that had already been warning me a few miles back that it was going to be coming. And so at that point, it was more so me just managing through and really just running and gliding on my hammies, if that makes sense. And that enabled me to be able to finish the race. I think if I would have tried to pick up the pace and run more on my forward to midfoot and engaging more of my quads and calves, I would have locked up and probably would have had trouble finishing. So that was a big takeaway from this marathon. Overall, very happy with my result. I think if I did, in the back of my mind, if I did have a finishing time goal, it would be under 3:30, which I hit that. And when I finished, a big indicator for me on my performance and how I prepared is how I feel after. So whenever I finish a race, if I'm having issues getting myself or feeling together at the end, then that means that I'm not prepared. That means that there's a lot more going on that I need to focus on as far as training goes, and not just the things that I was trying to do today. But when I finished, I was talking to the pacer that I was working with from the start. We ended up connecting and talking and learned a lot from him. He also came from an area where there's not as much elevation, so it was good to kind of sound off ideas off of each other. So that was good. And overall, I would say I consider doing this race again. It is tough. It is a hard course, but I can honestly say that there is a way to do these races, and it just requires you to be more in tune with your body and really pay attention to it and what it needs, and get in front of the needs of it before, and trying to catch up later at the end when it's already too late. I attended one of the panels during the expo, and no, Rojas, I remember something that she said. She said the best racers are the intuitive racers, and I think if I had to title my run, I think that's what I would call this. It's just racing and being intuitive, right? So not trying to race at the paces that I'm used to racing, understanding that I am running at altitude. B, there is going to be more climbing that I'm other than what I've been used to, but knowing how to dial that, how to take those factors and incorporate that into your conditioning in order to have a good race. I think after this race, I don't feel like I need to take much time off. I did some recovery work today, just assessing the damage, see if there's anything that's really aching me that I should take time on to work on, and for the most part it's just soreness, and I think that's a big win. I feel like I'm ready to go, but I'm gonna take the week easy, rest up, and keep thinking about things that I can do differently. Take the learnings from this and use that into my next training cycle for my next race. And if you have any other questions, I mean, feel free to DM me, ask any questions, and yeah, let's just keep learning and keep going. Let's keep it going. Business as usual. Metal Monday. Let's go.